And everything that's embedded in your nadis that is vibrating at or above the frequency that we're pushing through them is incompatible with that. And so over the time you're doing Awakening Prologue, it just gets blown out of there. Then you go to Awakening Level 1, the carrier frequency is lowered, and everything that was vibrating between that and the Awakening Prologue frequency then gets worked on while you're in Awakening Level 1. Then we lower it again, and the next level of stuff gets pushed out. So it's kind of like we have Shakti in a can, you might say, or Shakti in a CD. And that we're just gradually pushing out that stuff until when you get to the deeper levels of the program, your energy is also vibrating at a very, very, very low frequency. Now, all of this works kind of in a tuning fork effect. You know, if you hit one tuning fork and it's vibrating, and then you put another one of the same size, anyway, next to it, and put them close to each other, the second tuning fork will begin to vibrate without being struck because of the energy of the first one. People act that way also, so that when you get around someone whose energy of vibration is significantly lower than you are, your energy attempts to synchronize with that. It attempts to vibrate along with it. And usually where people experience this to any real measurably subjective extent anyway is when they're sitting with someone who is enlightened. And I don't know how many people have sat with someone from the East that's supposed to be enlightened or something. But often there are really two things that happen when people get around these kinds of beings. They either bliss out, much like the way you feel when you get a great hit from listening to the CDs, the Holosync stuff, and they just here they're with this master and they're just, oh wow, I can't believe it. Or they freak out because either one of two things happens. They sit there, their nadis are trying to vibrate where this other guy's are vibrating from this tuning fork effect, and the brain just makes all these endorphins, as I said, to kind of anesthetize them as all this stuff comes up. Or the ability of the body for some reason, the ability of the brain for some reason doesn't kick in to make those endorphins, and all the stuff comes up but without the anesthetic. And then all this person's anger, fear, whatever is all coming up. And if you've ever been around some of these spiritual groups, there's two groups of people in them. There's the people that are all happy and blissed out, and there's the people that are all cranky and nasty and dissatisfied. And at any rate, this is a model that describes what may be happening here. And certainly this thing about the nadis and all that is not something I have a bunch of scientific evidence for. It's a thousands-year-old tradition, and it seems very quite a coincidence anyway to me that it also illustrates the same thing I found with this stuff about carrier frequency. So before we go on, does anybody have any questions about this stuff about carrier frequency and how all that works and the stuff about the nadis and everything? That's possible. Another thing that happens, and it's one of the reasons why we can meditate with such strong stuff in here, when you are the lower frequency person in a group, you tend to kind of take on some of the stuff of the other people. It's very commonly said that the master, when he's with all the disciples, that he's taking on their karma. You've heard that expression. It's kind of like his nervous system is so strong that it sort of takes on the stuff that people are releasing, you might say. And so when we're all here meditating in a group, there's always a few people that are much deeper in the program, and they tend to take on a certain amount of the processing of some of the other people. And it sort of pushes them a little more evolutionarily, and makes it more intense for them, and it helps out the people that are, might be having a little harder time because it's so intense. So it sort of all balances out. You're likely in those situations to be vibrating at a much lower frequency than most of the people, and perhaps all of the people that you're around, and you're probably more sensitive to their stuff, and you pick it up a lot more easily. And then, the stage after that is where you pick it up and you're sensitive to it, but it just kind of flows through you, and you don't, it doesn't trigger any of your stuff. This is all kind of part of the process, I know that when I was going through the program, I kept thinking, God, how much more of this stuff can there be? How much do I have? Is it endless? Will it ever end? Because I would go through these periods where I would just be blissed out for weeks and weeks, and nothing would bother me, and everything was just, great. And then all of a sudden, all this garbage would come up again, and I'd be bummed out and pissed off, and all this, and that would go on for a while, and then suddenly that would clear, and I'd feel really clear again, and everything would be smooth and mellow, and I'd think, wow, I'm done now. This has got to be it. And then I'd feel that way for anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks, and then more junk would come up, and sometimes it would be physical, my neck would be stiff, and my shoulders would be tight, and, other physical stuff would happen. But, it kept going in these waves, and every time the nasty stuff would come back, I would say, oh man, I thought for sure that I was through with this. And it would just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And finally, after many years, it got to the point where when it would come back, it would be really mild. And it just got milder and milder until it just really wasn't of any consequence. And now when I come to these retreats and listen to all this stuff, I kind of expect, okay, am I going to start to freak out a little bit? But I seem to be able to handle it without it upsetting me now, whereas it used to just bring up a ton of stuff for me to do something like this. So you will get to a place where the well is pretty much dry. That doesn't mean you won't ever get angry again, you won't ever get fearful again, you won't ever get down. These are normal human emotions. It's just that you get to a point where when you get angry, there's this part of you watching yourself be angry, and so you're not totally caught in it, and you can say to yourself, wait a minute, here I am being angry, is that what I want to do? And if you say, no, I don't want to do it, then you can stop it. Whereas, I know for me anyway, before, there was no way that I could stop it. I was anger at those times, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Now if I get down about something, as soon as I realize that I can decide whether I want to get out of it. And if I want to get out of it, I can, 15 minutes later, I can be okay. So it is possible to get to that point. This idea that you're going to get to the place where, nothing ever bothers you at all, and you don't have any of these feelings, and is, I think, pretty utopian, and I'm not sure you'd want to be that way anyway. There is a reason for fear. If you're in a dark alley and somebody pulls a gun on you and you're not afraid, there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. I mean, I suppose you could be at the point where you say, you know what, I'm not afraid to die, and whatever happens here is fine, and you're totally mellow about it. But, if a grizzly bear is chasing you, you need that extra adrenaline to run like hell. So, and you could say the same thing for all of these human emotions. Anybody else have a question?